East. Orders.
So that was me at, I think, 24 years old, maybe, 2 years after I graduated college, just over 2 years when I got out of college. I went to Penn State on an Army ROTC scholarship, and I remember my senior year when it was time to pick your career field in the Army. I somehow chose infantry, and I wasn't planning on being an infantryman, but I think something about it really struck me as a challenge. And I think what drew me to the branch was that I didn't know if I could do it. I'd heard that being an infantry officer was extremely difficult. I heard that the infantry basic officer leaders course at Fort Benning was grueling. I heard Ranger School was grueling, which is kind of like an unofficial prerequisite for a lot of infantrymen. And I wasn't sure if I could do it. I think that's what drew me to the career field, was I knew it would stretch my mental and physical boundaries. I totally underestimated just how grueling the training would be leading up to taking over a platoon in my first unit out of Fort Bliss, Texas. The training at Fort Benning was absolutely grueling and pushed me to my mental and physical limits. I still remember, the first day arriving at Fort Benning, our instructors basically telling us that they had only two priorities. The first, to train us to be platoon leaders in combat. They knew a lot of us were heading to various parts of Afghanistan. And the second priority was to prepare us for Ranger School. And they said they were going to do everything in their power to make sure that we were prepared for both of those eventualities. And man, did it push me to my breaking point. I was totally unprepared for what I faced at Fort Benning. They were constantly pushing us to be better. Now that I, in retrospect, understand what they were doing, it was critical to the training regimen. And I always wanted to be a soldier. I grew up playing in the woods with BB guns and firecrackers, and I remember distinctly the first time I saw an Army non-commissioned officer in BDUs, freshly pressed uniform, hat straight, clean shaven, fit, standing in front of a military cargo aircraft somewhere, I think in Northern Virginia or DC. And it just struck me as like a really great profession to go into. I think it combined, a lot of the physical attributes as a young man and the mental capacity to learn a new skill set. It combined a lot of different skill sets that I felt like I could achieve. 9/11 really reinforced the idea that I was going to join the military. I was in middle school, probably about 25 minutes away from the Pentagon when it was attacked by Al-Qaeda. And it really hit home, both literally and figuratively. My next door neighbor was killed in the Pentagon. He was working that day, unfortunately, in the wing that got attacked. And so people I knew, personally, were affected and lost their lives. So I signed a military contract. I joined the Army as soon as I could at age 18 and went to Penn State on an Army ROTC scholarship. And fast forward, a few years later, when I was 24 years old, I found myself in southern Afghanistan on a remote combat outpost with an incredible platoon. The platoon that I was with had a bunch of seasoned non-commissioned officers and soldiers, many of which had been deployed 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times to various parts of the Middle East and Eastern Europe. And they just constantly encouraged me. They lifted me up. They helped me plan the missions. They helped give me guidance on how to use the equipment, how to be successful in a combat environment. I love those guys. Those guys are my brothers. I still talk to them almost daily. I probably talk to one of the guys in my platoon from Afghanistan almost every day. I'm so grateful for those, lifelong friendships and that brotherhood. And I still remember when we were in Afghanistan, that pit in my stomach when I was planning a mission or when we were about to step out on a mission and go outside the wire. I just had immense amount of self-doubt. Did I plan the mission correctly? Did I choose the right route? Or was my route going to be littered with improvised explosive devices, IEDs? Did I pack enough batteries for my radios? Did I bring enough water? Did I bring enough ammunition? I just felt sorely unprepared as a 24-year-old kid. And it was just absolutely nerve-wracking for me, just thinking back on it. It just totally broke my brain some nights. And some nights I couldn't sleep the night before. But I was just so incredibly fortunate to be part of that particularly platoon of highly experienced non-commissioned officers and soldiers, and an incredible company commander at that. And fast forward 10 years later, or it's been almost 13 years since we left Afghanistan. My platoon left Afghanistan. And, the successes that I see, the guys I was with, like what they're doing now is just incredible. We have teachers, nurses, welders, technicians, policemen, firefighters. All the guys in my unit are seeing success on the other side, but not without struggle. We share in the struggles that we experienced when we got out, trying to transition from being an infantryman to living a normal life in the civilian world. And when I returned from Afghanistan, I thought things would be good. My platoon made it back unscathed for the most part. I was home with my beautiful wife. I got to sleep in my nice, comfortable bed. I thought things were looking up. And the first few weeks were okay. It was just mostly filled with celebration and gratitude to be in a nice, comfortable house, be in a nice, warm bed, be able to eat whatever you want, not living off MREs and Mermites. But then I started to feel a lot of physical pains in my stomach and started to have a lot of dark thoughts about my existence. Other people who had been on multiple deployments had warned me about this. They told me this might happen to me, and I didn't fully appreciate what they meant until I started experiencing those symptoms myself.